Hi friends, how are you? It's Mandy. Happy Sunday. Make sure my volume is turned up. How's it going? I'm really excited to be having this conversation here momentarily with my new friend. See, I think she's here.
Hi, Mandy.
Hi! How are you?
I'm doing great. It's an honor to meet you.
It's an honor to meet you. How's it going? Look at your cool boat earrings. I love
Thank
them.
you. Thank you. I wore them just for you.
Dang, those are styling. I love it.
It's great
How was
to
your
meet a
Sunday?
fellow, I was going to say, it's great to meet a fellow Orlandonian. We miss you here.
That is very sweet. Yeah, I live in Los Angeles now. There aren't like too many of us out here, but we try to hold it down and represent. But
No, you are
um
representing for sure, for sure. I was actually just at Lake Eola, downtown Orlando, for
oh,
a Pride to the Polls event with our LGBTQ plus community. And so everybody was very excited that I had to leave early to talk to you.
oh my goodness. Wow, that sounds like a fun way to spend a Sunday.
Yeah, it was good. You are definitely loved. So how are you
Next
doing?
I'm well. I'm just, hanging out, excited. Trying to breathe through these next 9 days, as I'm sure you probably are as well.
Absolutely.
um, Before I jump into, because I have a laundry list of questions for you, just to give people a primer that maybe aren't as familiar, can you just, and I'm naturally curious as well, how did you get into politics? Like I know
Oh,
a little bit, but you're 30 years old,
I
right?
am.
This is massively impressive. I'm
Oh, you
just
are massively impressive. You're like 36 and like a superstar.
no, 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 ma'am. I disagree with you. I am a political junkie. All things politics are fascinating to me, and yes, I'm unendingly impressed with you and your record, and I'm yes. So just
Thank
give us like
you.
the big picture of how this started. Like, did you grow up like with a political family? What
That's a
how did
really
this
great
happen?
question. Yeah, well, Mandy, I think like so many women and especially young people, like we definitely grow up realizing that there's something more out there for people like us. Like the
Mhm.
status quo really isn't good enough. And so I grew up as a daughter of immigrants. My parents actually came from Iran and met each other in Orlando working at the same donut shop. So yeah, true
No
American love
way.
story. Yeah. I have a
That is,
twin
I want to hear more
sister.
about that story at some point, but we can
Well,
offline that one.
also, your love story is amazing. You guys met on Instagram.
Not as cool as your Iranian immigrant parents meeting at a donut shop, but fine. It's a little more
I don't know.
modern.
I think there's good stories on both sides. But anyways, and so we grew up with not a lot of money, but a whole lot of love. And so I always kind of just wanted to protect the little guy, and care about
Mm,
folks that often get left behind. And I ended up working at Planned Parenthood for about 6 years before I
wow.
ran for office. And my Planned Parenthood story really started, like many of us, as a patient because I went to Planned Parenthood for birth control. My mom passed away when I was a little girl, so I didn't have anyone to talk to about this kind of stuff. And so I worked at Planned Parenthood for 6 years in the lion's den here in Florida, fighting for reproductive health and abortion access. Anyways, ended up watching President Trump win and just being so upset by that election outcome that I knew we needed to step up and just offer something new to Central Floridians. So I put my name in the ring, became a first time candidate in 2018, along with the wave of women that ran across the country. And we flipped our seat and have continued to serve this great state with both grit and grace.
Wow. That is an incredible story. I have so many questions, but I'm curious now how your race is going and how you're holding up. I mean, I can't even begin to wrap my head around how exhausting it must be campaigning. So I'm curious.
It's a lot, you know, especially 2020. We have folks like stealing yard signs and, you know, just doing stuff that's like super petty. It's very 2020. It's very on brand for 2020. But we keep joy, you know, as our main source of energy, and we just lead with kindness. And I feel really good about our race. I will tell you, I'm so happy that you are invested in both Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, because here in Florida, we need all hands on deck to get out the vote here. And actually, I wanted to ask you, like, what were your thoughts when Vice President Joe Biden, soon to be president, announced Kamala as the VP? Especially as someone who, you know, is in California, like, what did that mean? What did that mean for you when it happened?
I think I speak for many, many women. I was excited initially following the primary, when Joe was close to getting the nomination and he sort of relayed to the world that he was only considering a woman VP.
Right.
I was excited by that, and for obvious reasons, but also because there are so many unbelievably qualified women for that particular position.
Totally.
So I loved Kamala. I loved her during the primaries. But also, representation does matter. And the idea that her nomination, her candidacy is historic for so many reasons. I mean, she's a woman of color. And again, even the sort of harkening back to like the primaries, I love that, you know, she was an opponent of Joe's at one point and didn't necessarily take it easy on him all the time. And it just speaks volumes about him as a leader, the fact that he is comfortable with strong women, that he didn't hold that against her. And I think he just he knew what an asset she was going to be for not only his campaign, but for his administration. So and we've all seen her in like a committee hearing. We've all seen her take people to task. I love her. She's cool. She's just, she's got compassion and empathy, and I'm so excited to see her as our next VP, our first female VP.
I appreciate your point about representation matters. I mean, I want a president when little girls look at the TV, they don't feel judged or ashamed or attacked, right? And same thing for little boys. Like, I want little boys to see models of equity and of folks treating each other with respect, no matter their gender identity. And I do think that policies are important, and alongside that comes just the living the values of this country.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, and speaking a little bit more about your candidacy and your campaign back in 2018. I mean, we both know that Central Florida is sort of a historically red region. Yeah, I grew up there, and we've seen this massive blue wave in the past 5 to 10 years. And you actually flipped your seat in 2018, which is huge. How, to sort of go back to your race specifically, how are you feeling about your seat? Why does that matter? What is on the line for you? What's on the line for the state, for the country? Sort of unpack that and break that down for all of us.
Totally. I mean, you're right. Central Florida has had a history of leading red. And I would also say that a lot of it's this historic boys club mentality. I mean, it's very politics, right? For decades, everyone who ran for office and won typically looked the same. And so it's been shifting in Central Florida for quite some time. And I will say that my race in particular, it flipped back and forth. It was once Democrat, it went Republican. Even in 2016, Republicans, though the district went to Hillary Clinton, Republicans kept the state legislative seats. And it's just a reminder, too, for everyone who's tuning in of how important local elections are, right? We obviously need to vote for president, but finish your ballot. Don't forget the other candidates running for local seats, because it all impacts your life.
Research.
Right,
There's so many resources out there to understand propositions and different things that are on the ballot that are going to affect your life in such a fundamental way that, obviously president is super important, and governors and all other state races, but at a local level, for sure, that's such a great point to drive home.
Absolutely. Do your research, finish your ballot. But right now it's interesting. Central Florida has changed so much in the sense that a lot of young families are calling Orlando home. They're calling this part of the state home. and they're putting their roots down, they're raising families, and they're really civically engaged and mindful. I mean, we didn't win because we only attracted Democrats. We won because we spoke to Republicans and NPAs about who we are and what we stand for. And there are, of course, moments where folks will tell me, well, I don't agree with your perspective on this area, but you're ethical, you're accessible, and you've helped our community in different ways, so you have my support. So I think it kind of speaks to, like, we have to be really intentional in reaching out to everyone as much as possible, and just treating people with basic kindness and not automatically pushing people out if we don't 100% agree, right? Like keeping keeping your arms as wide open as possible. And I'm a firm believer of calling people in before we call them out too. So obviously you got to get tough sometimes and you got to put your foot down, but give it a chance for there to be dialogue and conversation and common ground. You know, I say all the time, let's build bridges when we can, but hold people accountable when we must. And that's been our mantra. And you know, like I said, we attract supporters of all walks of life. And our district was drawn to be it was gerrymandered to be swing, to lean a little bit red. The demographics have changed a lot, but like I said, we attract a lot of no party affiliation voters and even some Republican voters because they know what we stand for and they know they can count on us to, at the very least, prioritize everyday people over corporations, over anything else. And that's something that folks across party lines find hope in.
Yeah, I think especially with what we've been living through and what this election has sort of brought about and brought to the surface, it's so lovely to hear that about, you know, the idea of trying to find common ground with people. I mean, I think it's challenging. I'm a public person, but I'm not as public as you are, and obviously our jobs are sort of different, and so I feel like so much of the conversation is sort of relegated to social media, and oftentimes it just feels futile. It feels like a futile effort that nothing's necessarily getting accomplished. So it's nice to hear that on the ground, when it matters in people's lives, face to face, that there are politicians like yourself who are embracing everyone on both sides and trying to sort of find that common ground.
Well, you know what's funny is I was just thinking, Mr. Rogers he went to college in our district. So Rollins College. Yeah. So that's in our district. So Mr. Rogers is always like one of my, you know, go-tos as a reminder of just be kind. And literally when 2020 started, I kid you not, Mandy, I like print a little like Mr. Rogers quote and put it in our Tallahassee office. I'm just like, this needs to be a reminder like every day, you know, and lead by this example. So he really, you know, is just an important example for all of us.
I think for everybody. I sort of, not to go off on a tangent, but laughed when they were, I don't know who said it. Was
comparing Joe Biden?
Yes, comparing Joe Biden to Mr. Rogers. I'm like, that is the greatest compliment of all time. I don't understand the insult in that.
I know, like, that's the best. Oh my gosh, I would be honored if somebody said I was like Mr. Rogers. I would not know what to do, right? It's such an honor.
I was like, I don't think that's quite the diss that they intended it to be, but
100%.
Sure. To sort of circle back to the conversation around representation mattering, I mean, it is important to recognize you can't be what you can't see, right? And women make up, 51% of the population here in this country. They only make up, I think, a quarter of the Senate and 23% of the House of Representatives and 29% of state legislative seats. What more, in your opinion, do you think can be done to sort of expand on female representation in the political sphere?
Well, my first thought is women supporting women. I think there is just nothing more incredible than lifting up one another and realizing too that power is not a scarce resource, and power is neither a good or a bad, but we can build it together. And so here in Central Florida, like, yes, I'm focused on my campaign. I'm focused on getting Joe Biden elected, but we're also helping other state candidates across the state. And I've been making endorsements in different races, and our endorsements are definitely diverse, but it's been incredible to see the amount of women, first-time candidates, or women who ran 2018, lost, and are running again. And to make sure we have their back, I've been raising money for them, hosting events for them, just doing whatever I can to allocate resources, especially over in Seminole County, next door to where I am in Orange County. I have to tell you, Mandy, there are some incredible women running for office in Seminole County, all trying to flip seats. We have Tasha Baker, Tracy Kagan, Patricia Sigmund. These are all state candidates that are working to flip seats, and it's incredible to watch. And it's all women against male incumbents. So it's pretty wild.
I am going to do my research after this because
yes,
that's where I grew up.
I grew
up in Seminole County, so I'm very curious. I want to support
you should. It is changing. It's incredible. It really is incredible. And I know they'd love a boost from you too. So let me know how I can help.
Absolutely. That is so heartening.
So yeah, I think that's part of it though, right? Is like women lifting up women and really encouraging women to run for office. You know, there's an old saying that it takes 7 times for someone to ask you as a woman to run for office before you take it seriously. So for any woman who's watching right now, let us be 2 of the 7. Run for office. Definitely consider it. And it doesn't have to be 2022. It can be down the road. But more women need to feel supported when they run. We need to donate to them. We need to provide them volunteer support. I wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for all the folks that support our campaign. And some of our first donors were all women. And that's not something that ever, something I never forget.
Oh, I love that. I love that. It's exciting.
Well, I wanted to ask you too, Mandy. I mean, obviously you have such an incredible platform, and I love your Biden-Harris mug.
I figured I don't have any merch that I can fit in right now, so I'm like, I'll just go.
Oh my God, that's right, because you're having a baby, right?
I'm having a baby. I have like an old T-shirt, and I was like, okay, yeah, this just feels obscene. I can't wear this.
Congratulations!
So I'm just wearing blue.
Congratulations!
Thank you.
So exciting.
Thank you.
Well, this question is a good one for thinking about becoming a mother too, because I think that when you are using your platform for good and support causes and people that matter to you, I'm curious, what about Joe Biden, whether it's his personality or his policies, is motivating you to show up today, is motivating you to do all this work to win this election?
I feel like I want to ask you that same question. I mean, on a basic level, I feel like it's a no-brainer to stand against hatred and bullying and racism and sexism and violence and everything that we've sort of lived through for the last 4 years. And Joe Biden is the polar opposite to all of that.
Right.
I mean, he will be a president for all of us, even for those who don't side with him or don't vote for him. He'll be a leader who believes in science and climate change, a leader who listens to doctors and understands how important it is to have a mandate to wear masks and to practice hand hygiene and social distancing, who understands the importance of healthcare and the ACA and protecting people with pre-existing conditions and not ripping away people's healthcare in the middle of a global pandemic. I mean, the Supreme Court, there's so much that's on the ballot that is important to me and feels personal to me. But really, at the end of the day, all of that is important. But how incredible would it be to have an empathetic, decent, moral president in the White House? I feel like we've been lacking that for way too long, and that is who Joe is. And Joe inherently, I think, is going to be a leader to kind of sort of walk us through this moment, this crazy, strange moment in time that we've all been living through, where we're all grieving for one reason or another. He knows how to deal with that. And I think, I think he is just going to be the right leader at the right time and surround himself with competent, also moral, leadership in his administration. Like, I'm very much looking forward to what that bigger picture is going to look like. But I've loved him as vice president. I've had the honor of meeting him. He's a wonderful human being. And I mean, it's such a stark contrast, but yet such an easy choice.
Right. No, so well said.
What do you have
so well said. I mean, I echo all of that, Mandy. The only thing that I'll add is, thinking about how Trump Trump prioritizes himself and enriches his friends. Like it's that simple. Like
Yeah.
and no one should be fooled by it. No matter how much rhetoric he has or empty promises he makes, like, instead of cleaning the swamp, he brought the swamp with him. And literally we learning about his taxes, learning about even more of the in-depth corruption that he has facilitated his entire life and has brought with him to the White House.
Yeah.
I mean, everyone should be appalled, which is why there's so many Republicans who are not going to vote for him either. And I have so many Republican friends that are just so done. They're so over it. And so, but of course, I think looking towards the future of who we are as Americans, everything you just said matters to us. We care about healthcare access. We care about the working class. We care about ensuring that that immigrants who come to this country are not caged and separated, but are provided with their legal rights like anyone else, and
yes.
to ensure that we're taking climate change seriously, and especially with this pandemic, making decisions based on science and not political rhetoric. And I mean, even right now, it's 8 months in, President Trump is still not taking this seriously. Yeah. So I think it's a combination of all of the above, and I'm very excited for the opportunity to get this right. The turnout has been incredible.
Right.
And so I wanted to ask you, I know we have to wrap up soon, but what's your voting plan? Like, have you already voted? Are you voting early? Like, what are you doing?
I have already voted. I early voted. I usually absentee vote just because my job sort of dictates that I might not necessarily be home during the election season. So I voted early. I dropped off my ballot. And in California, we can track our ballot. So it's already been counted and accepted. And I'm super excited about that. But yes, I always get excited to get my my ballot and then sort of dig in and do the research, because like we were talking about earlier, there are so many propositions and candidates and judges and all kinds of things that it's an incredible honor to fulfill our civic duty and to be able to vote. And so I take it seriously. And like you also just mentioned, I'm so buoyed by the fact that there are so many young people specifically, but just so much early voting happening across the country.
Totally.
It's an incredible thing. It's been nice to feel this like massive wave of solidarity from all walks of life, from both sides of the political spectrum. People, understanding the importance of and having access to vote early. And I'm excited to see how it's all going to shake out. What about your are you voting on election day?
I already voted too, so I'm with you. Yeah, I actually voted by mail in Florida, but I did it super early. So as soon as I got my ballot, I mailed it back in. It's already been collected and received and counted. And so right now I'm just helping get out the vote as much as I can for everyone else. But as a reminder for Florida, you can also track your ballot, your vote by mail ballot here in Florida, and you can drop off your vote by mail ballot at an early vote location or at your supervisor of elections office. So definitely make sure that if you haven't mailed it back yet at this point, might be a better approach to try to drop it off.
Do it in person.
Right. And if you're not sure, for folks out there who want to check on their ballot or get more information, contact your county supervisor of election. Their office can help answer all of your questions, especially if you're a Floridian. Just check out your county supervisor of elections office, and they'll have your back in answering any questions you have about voting.
That's great information. And I know that we want to sort of encourage people, if you're interested in learning more about Joe Biden's campaign, we're encouraging folks to text WIN, W-I-N, to 30330. And you can find out more information. You can join the campaign, and also to check your registration. I hope everybody's visiting iwillvote.com.
Absolutely. Again, that's text WIN, W-I-N, to 30330, the word WIN, to number 30330. And like Mandy said, if you go to iwillvote.com, you can learn more about your ballot and check your registration. Just get that extra information to make sure your vote will be counted and that you're ready to vote this year.
I am so honored to have had the chance to chat with you. This was such a lovely aspect to my Sunday. It was all I've been looking forward to. I really appreciate your time. I appreciate your service to the state of Florida. I'm going to be rooting for you and have my fingers crossed and keep spreading the word for folks to fill in your little name on their ballots.
Thank you, Mandy.
And I have my fingers crossed for Florida, as I always do every year, and hopefully we won't be disappointed. Hopefully Florida will be going blue.
I was gonna say we want to give folks an early night as much as possible. So we're working really hard here to do whatever we can to flip the state.
Well,
and meanwhile, I know folks across the country are doing the same for their states. And so this is a collective effort. We're in this together for sure.
Thank you, thank you, thank you from all of us. Thank you for all the work that you're doing, and it was so lovely to chat with you and meet you. Have a great rest of your campaign.
You too. 9 more days. Let's get it done. Bye, Mandy. Bye.